Buying your medication is easy with City Drugstore's curbside pickup. WhatsApp our certified pharmacist at 662-8769 with your requests. For prescriptions, take a clear photograph and send for review. We will engage you in dialogue and then provide a quotation and link for payment. You can then pay via TDC's online payment portal. And once the transaction is complete, you'll be notified that your pickup is ready. Yes, it's that easy. Send your WhatsApp message to 662-8769 to order your medications today with City Drugstore's curbside pickup service.
Once again, saying morning greetings or sending morning greetings to any listeners and viewers out there. I want to start by saying hail and salutation to our son of the soil, who's currently over there in Canada, Mr. Valentine Monish. We had a little chat a while ago, and so I promised to hail him up. I didn't say that I would, but I want to say good morning to Mr. Valentine Monish over there in Canada, and we'll catch up on our dialogue later on. We want to start today. Well, there's so many different topics. We want to address the fact that yesterday, October 10th, was World Mental Health Day, and there are many organizations, many persons around the globe here within the Federation who is very cognizant of that fact and reach out to many citizens who would be in need of assistance. This is a topic where it has to be handled with kid gloves. There is no, what I say, a roadmap exactly as to how to deal with the cases. Every case pretends to be different, but the fact that attention is being paid to it is a very good start. So for all the folks who were paying attention, yesterday, October 10th, was celebrated around the globe as World Mental Health Day. Every day of the year, this is an issue at the forefront in every society around the world. So the fact that it's recognized, is given a day for recognition, is really worth mentioning. But every single day we have to be careful as to how we deal with cases of people who are mentally challenged from one issue or the other. There was a time when we were heaping ridicule, or this person will be ridiculed, not understanding the particular situation, what could trigger it. As a matter of fact, just about any person can have an episode where they can fall in those categories. So we have to be mindful of those who we see and are in need of help. They may be going through some sort of medical distress. We have to be patient, understanding, compassionate, and lend a helping hand where we can. Okay. October is also celebrated as the Breast Cancer Month. And I know there are a number of activities normally in place to bring attention to this scourge globally. I know on the local level there are certain things that they engage in. We're still, today's the 11th of October, so lots of things happening still. I know at the end of the month, there'll be some sort of sponsor walk, and I would say every year more and more people are engaging in those activities. We're also approaching on November 1st. That's observed as World AIDS Day. Yes, AIDS is still very much with us. So during the month of October, we observed yesterday World Mental Health Day. We're in the month of October again, the 10th month of the year, and they're observing for the entire month is the Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And then at the end of this month, there'll be some activities, but as we start November, we will be once again reminded that it's World AIDS Day. There are a number of topics we can engage in about that. We have now recorded in our federation. I mentioned last week that somebody put on the post they were tired of hearing about COVID, there, like COVID fatigue, etc. But our records, our stats shows that we have now recorded 19 or 19th death due to COVID-19 from our population size. This is not something that you brush aside and say, well, I'm tired of hearing about it. It's down front and center in our faces just about anywhere you turn. And for the persons with what we call comorbidities, this is a very serious, life-threatening aspect as we go through our various our days. This brings me to a point where we wish to speak and send condolences from the taxi fraternity. That is the entire taxi fraternity, and I dare say from the management of WINNFM to the family of the late Mr. Lawrence Manning, known more popularly as Lolly. Over the past few years, he plied his trade mainly in the circus, drove a little black taxi, so he's very, very well known, very popular amongst the population, folks who would go to the circus, and he had his fan base, he had his clientele, etc. So sadly, we learned that he was ailing for some time, and the official notice is that he also was a victim of COVID-19. That's the information. Yeah, maybe I may stand to be corrected, but the passing of fellow taxi driver Lawrence Manning, lots of folks didn't even know his name. Call him Lolly. As a matter of fact, I had to call someone this morning to get his actual name, because over the many years, you're known by your sobriquet, your nickname, etc. People don't even know your name. And so his name was Lawrence Manning, a.k.a. Lolly, or as somebody would say, Lollipop. All right, so we observe and we send our condolences to his family and to the family of the many others who would have passed, not only from COVID-19, but we know it's a time of distress for many, many persons. Last week, Thursday, I think, I was at the service station up there across from the hospital. And there was a car sort of parked at the entrance or the exit of that facility. And there were a person speaking to the driver. I thought, why have him parked there? In about 2-3 minutes, he pulled out and parked on the side of the road, but just past the exit. And people were commenting. And then the attendant said to me, he should not be driving. I asked, why? And she said, his mother just passed. And so there were people who had gone and were trying to speak with him, etc. And as I drove by, I didn't even recognize the person. And I'm thinking, in the midst of all that we're doing, there's all this death, all this death, all this death. One has to pause and think that we are different to any other part of the world. But in this very small society, it is impacting even more and more on our psyche. Just about every day, every 2 days, somebody of prominence we hear would have passed, and we're taken them back once again into shock. So, in terms of those who understand what's happening in terms of the virus and the precautions that one can take, if you take the science, as we're told we have to follow the science, as it is, and the end game is to do what you have to inoculate yourself and the person next to you, protect you, protect me. One has to pause, reconsider if you must, and do what you must, because this thing is not going anywhere fast. And we went from 0 about a year ago up to about 6 months ago, and then bam, 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 we have now recorded 19 deaths due to COVID-19. And the numbers are still going. So there are those topics, if anybody wants to call in. Let me give you the numbers. And then there's another hot topic I want to address when we get back. But the numbers to call are 466-0989, 662-0989, 7620989. Then there's 718-265-6948. 508 for those in the Florida area, 921-4619. For those calling from the UK, we're talking about 0333-044-0065. In terms of topics, I mentioned, let me go back to my notes. I mentioned the fact that yesterday was celebrated as World Mental Health Day. The month of November being observed as Breast Cancer Month. The passing of fellow taxi driver Lawrence Manning, a.k.a. Lally. 19 is the number of the recorded death due to COVID-19 in the Federation. And now we go to a very hot issue. And I hope people like Africa is listening. Now, we're not touching the religious thing as yet because this has now become religious theology when we're on Voices. And I did speak to Reverend Pastor Cumberbatch after the last show, and I asked him to please weigh in on the issues that I'm sure will come to the fore today. But in the meantime, we have taxi drivers asking to hold a press conference. A clip was sent to me over the weekend of Mr. Carlton DuPont, where he was on another radio station speaking about what's happening with the taxi industry and who he think or who he hold responsible. And the recommendations that he's offering is that these persons must leave. While I may not agree to everything that he says, he has a point. He has made some points in terms of how the work is being dispensed at the ports. That being said, I spoke to another former leader of a taxi association this morning, and he said to me at a former meeting with the Tourism Authority, it was said that the arrival of the cruise ship, the first 2 cruise ships, will be a trial run to see if things work out. And I took that into consideration, but we would have had 2 calls from this particular ship with a capacity of some, I would say, 2,500. They're not bringing full capacity at the moment, but in the past, in the last 2 calls, we are told that we cannot get up to, the count for taxi drivers, independent drivers who got work, was about 8 in totality. And so this has brought to the fore once again the whole issue of taxi men, the trade, what the expectation is, what the reality is. And Mr. DuPont would have taken the government, Mr. Lindsey Grant directly as the Minister of Tourism, to task on the way the work is being shared at Port Zante. And so taxi drivers are up in arms at the moment, justifiably so. I recall 2 weeks ago, Mrs. Annie Fontaine was making the rounds in the media speaking about how she was affected, how she was perceived in terms of the work that she would have had, pre-booked tours, but she was not allowed to go to the port and receive the work that was pre-booked. They said you had to go through the ships, you had to go to this tourism, and she was denied that opportunity. And she made quite a ruckus. I spoke to another taxi driver who said that he was told by Tourism Authority that the people have to go through them, and he had pre-booked arrangement and that was not allowed. I was still told this morning that that is now being addressed because another driver has been called by tourism and told that he would be allowed to get his guests, his passengers, when the ships call again. So there may be some progress in the issue as related to Annie Fontaine, but from a general sense, the general taxi driver body, the independents as they refer to, are not happy with the volume of work they're getting. They're seeing the larger corporations driving away with, I would say, 98% of the work. Having gone through all the sacrifices over the past 19 months, having gone through the protocol and the training and the expectation that, okay, you're now qualified, you're approved or travel approved taxi driver. Your expectations are raised that when the ships come, work will be dispatched to you equally. One of the problems that impacts on that is that the ships, I want to say the folks working on the ship, they are incentivized by the amount of tours they can sell. Let's say, for instance, you have a corporation with a capacity and would have had certain tours, unique tours, as you call them, and they are popular on the ships. The ship's agents will sell those tours. They make a commission from those tours. And so they will discourage the passengers who are not yet booked from booking independently. They will give them scares where the drivers may not be insured. In case you got left behind, we can cover you, and all sort of things. As at one time, there was an issue with the beaches there, which the tourists would tell us, they're saying not to book with you independently. We have to book through the ship. But we know in doing so, they get a percentage, they get a commission, and that is part of the game and the problem we're up against. In this COVID environment, it's an easier sell for ships agents, well, I'm not talking about those on the ground, those on the ship, to sell to their passengers fear that this is a bubble that you have to take. You can only book through us because when you go to, say, the islands, say St. Kitts, the independent taxi drivers aren't qualified. They can't guarantee this, blah, blah, blah. It's safer to book through us. And so the tours that will be sold to the passengers mostly are those that brings a benefit to the ship. Scenic Railway is a very popular tour. And so the guys on the ship will sell that 10 times over an independent tour. That's one of the issues that we have to address. But the taxi drivers are asking for a press conference as a means of getting the information to the relevant authorities. I think the theme that should be used is that the work has to be shared. The work has to be shared. Trial run or not, you cannot have taxi drivers, the expectation raised, going down to Posante or being called by the tourism authority in a rotation because you just can't go down there anymore. You're called and you're told, okay, you're in this rotation today, and then you're going to watch the larger corporations driving away, making 2 and 3 trips on the tours, and you're told to wait or come back next week because you're in a rotation. This has to stop. No if, no buts, no maybe. The work has to be shared. As I said before, the numbers to call, if you want to call in and make a contribution, do so, because I want to engage the public in this dialogue. Some time ago, when certain entities were able to come and make their case to the public, I took members of the taxi fraternity to task. There was no concerted response. And so people was able to buy the narrative put out there that taxi drivers were not reliable. When you only hear one side of the story, you tend to run with it. As I said, the taxi reps at the time did not go out there in a concerted effort and push back on the narrative that painted them as unreliable and that gave the persons who had the more to gain the public nod of approval to bring in their vehicles in the numbers. And so what we've seen today didn't just happen overnight. This goes back to when Michael Powell was the then Minister of Tourism. I don't think that it was legislated that tour agents should not engage in transportation, ground transportation. I think it was a policy. You can't be an agent for a ship, bringing in persons and then take over the transportation. That, I think, was a policy. It wasn't legislated. And as a result, a certain entity was able to have 4 buses competing with the taxi drivers. But that was because he had the accommodation of the then Minister of Tourism, the Honorable Michael Oliver Powell. And so taxi drivers grumbled and complained about that for a very long time. I recall when Miss Teresa Walwin was the owner of Cantos, and she would call or handpick her drivers from amongst the taxi membership. She didn't buy vehicles because there were enough of us to do the tours, all qualified, all trained, and when it's convenient, called ambassadors. So Miss Teresa Walwin was able to sell tours through the taxi drivers. Later on, when the bigger company took it over, that policy changed. I'll address that. But it's been, I think I've been chatting for now 25 minutes. So I need to pause for acknowledgement for our sponsors, and I will be right back. Thank you very much.
Fruta, taste the real Fruta, enjoy the real Fruta, refreshing juice of every day. Whoa, Fruta, drink the real Fruta, your favorite Fruta, the natural taste is Fruta. Fruta.
Your favorite fruit has got a new skin with real juice within. Drink the real Fruta. Enjoy the real joy.
Taste the real Fruta, enjoy the real Fruta, refreshing juice of every day is Fruta.
Fruta, juiced right.
If you need insurance, our service is the best. Home motor insurance can give you more for less. Property insurance can save you a lot of stress. At TDC Insurance Company Limited, we care about your investment. Guarantee you peace of mind. The best team in the business. Guarantee you peace of mind. No other company will guarantee you peace of mind. Together we'll succeed and guarantee you peace of mind. TDC Insurance Company Limited, where you get more coverage for less.
Triple the joy at home as you elevate your experience with Flo's new Triple Play bundles. For the first time ever, bundle up and save on internet, TV, and home phone together for more satisfaction. For as low as $175, enjoy up to 35 megabits per second super fast internet, 70 TV channels with HD entertainment, and free landline minutes with the all-in bundle. Visit your nearest Flo store to sign up for a Triple Play bundle. Conditions apply.
Good morning once again. Welcome back to the program. My name is Socrates, host of today's episode of Voices. And I've been on my stump talking about an issue that really affects taxi drivers. I'm going to give it the numbers once again before we continue. The numbers to call are 466-0989, 662-0989, 762-0989. From the U.S., we have 718-265-6948. From Florida, still U.S., 508-921-4619. And from the UK, we get 033-044-0065. I want to say good morning to Brenda O'Neill up there in the U.S., also Rosemary Donald. I already touched base with Mr. Valentin Monish. King Sweeney, Amber Lewis has over there in Anguilla, and remember others as we continue. I was about to say, and I'm going to go into some history of what has happened. As I said, it may not have been legislated, but there was a policy put in place by the then Dr. Simmons government that no travel agent, no tour operators, or ship agents was supposed to compete by getting vehicles to compete against taxi drivers. Let's see what this caller have to say. Caller, good morning, 11 Voices.
Good morning to the king. How are you?
Good morning, Brenda O'Neill. Just call your name. Talk to me. How are you doing up there?
I'm excellent, thank you.
Beautiful.
So as a travel advisor and as a St. Kitts specialist, it grieves my heart to see that after all these many months, tourism still has not been figured out. Other nations have. Mexico has remained open. And it's not because they have all-inclusive, because I have clients who do want something different. And you know my passion for St. Kitts. So it grieves my heart I have fellow agents and clients coming in on the 22nd, I believe it is, of October,
Ready?
on the Celebrity Equinox.
Mm-hmm.
They'll dock at Carambola. They'll have to be tendered in. So would you be able to service those guests, or those guests must only be serviced by the cantors and so forth? I'm just confused as to what the process is.
Okay, let's get this straight up. They're docking the Port Zante, your guests.
No, at Carambola. This docking is at Carambola.
Which, you said the Equinox. They don't dock at Carambola.
That's not the Equinox. It's my bad. But it's coming to Carambola. It's not coming to...
So the question has to
It
be asked.
alternates, right? It comes one time this way and one time the other way, right?
Okay, it's supposed to dock at Carambola 1 week and then downtown the next week, and that has not happened. It's been
Right.
gone straight to Carambola. So based on that arrangement, you have guests going there, and you're inquiring, would I be able to? That's a big question. You would have to write tourism. I would have to write tourism and let them know that these guests are coming to me as their tour guide slash, and then they would have to approve that firstly. They just can't go to Carambola. And that's an issue with taxi drivers because we gave up on that a long time ago. We had the bigger ships docking downtown, and these boats that would go straight over there. And there were times that there would be a cordon barring the general public from going down to the Carambola Beach Club. There's Friars Bay, the beach are supposed to be open, but there'd be a cordon blocking taxi drivers. There are times we would be even told by tourism, well, on this day, Carambola is closed to the public. So I would have to go through all those loops to be able to greet and entertain your guests. And you're a travel agent, you say, okay, they go to St. Kitts, Socrates will be a tour guide. I would have to go through tourism to get all that cleared, but that's Carambola. But in terms of what happened downtown, is a whole kettle of fish. It's a nasty kettle of fish because stimulus packages apart, over the past few months, whereas the government has tried to assist, etc., people don't get enough to pay their mortgages. And so you're hopeful, you're dependent, and when the ships start rolling again, you go down to Port Zante. I am reliably informed that on the first day, 4 taxi drivers did not get work. I decided to wait until the second ship's call. The numbers are indicating the same. So this is why taxi drivers are saying they need this, they need that. And from the last discussion, they're asking for a press conference. That should be in place. After you get off the air today, I'll try to put that in place. But it's a conversation. And I said, you are a friend of the Federation. You've been here many, many years, and you work in tourism. So you would have seen the changes. This is not good. We're trying to work it out. But at the same time, the bottom line is the work has to be shared.
It's a monopoly if it's not. And in a democracy, that's not right at all.
Well, I know how it came to be.
Right, and that's not fair at all.
I know how this came to be. I watched it go from nothing. When, I forget her name, but I think Miss Clarity Richardson was the CEO for Cantos, or not the CEO, but she was one of the agents dispatching work. And the St. Kitts Taxi and the Limega Taxi Association handled all the transportation. She asked us in a meeting to understand the need for a vehicle with wheelchair carrying capacity. So there was that conversation, that dialogue. It wasn't where I could just buy any amount of vehicles. And we understood the need because none of the associations had any vehicle with that capacity at the time. So we said, okay, Ms. Thing, yes. The point is there was dialogue. There was dialogue. I can say emphatically that when the owner of the scenic railway came to St. Kitts, he said, and he's on record of saying this on radio and TV, he did not come here to compete with the taxi drivers by providing transportation. And that was all good and good because you should not be given a license to come, set up a business, and then take over transportation from the many hundreds of taxi drivers who've invested. Now, Scenic Railway would have invested millions. The taxi drivers has also invested millions. We've all invested. But Ricky Skerritt is on record of saying, well, the Scenic Railway has helped tremendously to make St. Kitts. Long before the scenic railway showed up, I can tell you I would have seen up to 5 megaships downtown last year. Long before scenic. But they sat back and, of course, invited him in. Right? But it's due to corporate greed, complicity of government, and taxi drivers, I would say, not taking full recognition of what was happening to them. And they allowed this monster to grow. The same with cantons. I know it started. I know it began. I was right there. As a matter of fact, I was in the last 2 meetings with former Prime Minister Tenzin Douglas. And where we were challenging the fact that the scenic railway was taking, let's say, all the work. And he apologized. He said to us that the only reason he gave or signed the license for scenic railway to own vehicles or bring in vehicles to compete with us is because he thought they belonged to Carlton DuPont and Bradley Tweed. But, he says, inasmuch as these vehicles are here and we can't send them back, we will have a sharing arrangement. One ship goes to Scenic Railway. Ship number 2 goes to the St. Kitts Taxi Association members. Ship number 3 goes to the WINNMedia Taxi, right? And everybody was, yay, great, equitable. When we left there, it was at government quarters. We went to the circus and, we had a vehicles parked there. And I can call names, but I don't need to. They were all excited about the arrangement and the promise of that. And I said to them, all you believe that, man? I said, yes. I said, all you believe that, man? Dwyer Asafan was behind us because he thought it was wrong. But Scenic Railway paid to the government $5 per head for every passenger that rides the ship. Or book for the tours, every passenger that rides on the railway, the government gets $5 a head. We understand that. So for the investment and the returns, the government benefits. But I'm saying the man promised on radio and TV that he did not come here to compete with the transportation. That was our thing. But when he saw the money that he had to pay out for transportation, I mean, you look at the person involved, the shareholders, they were all complicit in working the taxi associations against the other. Example, St. Kitts Taxi was going to negotiate, and they'll say, well, okay, we can only pay you $4. We said we can't take that. They'll call WINNMedia Taxi in and have them take the $4, and they were able to work one against the other. So we are all part of our own demise. We did not show that amalgamation. As a matter of fact, it was discussed that the taxi association will amalgamate one presidency in going forward, so that none of the corporations, none of the tour agents here would separate. The other ship agent would work one against the other. And so the St. Kitts Taxi Association at the AGM took a resolution to join with the WINNMedia Taxi Association, as it was agreed to. When they had the AGM, they said no. So these corporations were able to work one against the other. In the meantime, members of both associations, who they swore allegiance to, went and worked for these other entities and built them. As a matter of fact, the Scenic Railway used the taxi drivers up to a point and then made the case to the public they were not reliable and brought in their own vehicles. Another local entity saw the play and figured out, Scenic is foreign. If you allow them to get their own vehicles, you can't stop me. So they supported the narrative of the Scenic Railway that taxi drivers are unreliable. And they started getting their own vehicles. And so today now you're here, Cantor's getting all the work, Scenic, we led the bed for that. But it comes to a point now in this current environment, forced on us by COVID, the work has to be shared. And so everybody have to go back to the drawing. As a matter of fact, the two other presidents of the two other associations, we're talking about David Brandy, We're talking about Mr. Richardson, Mr. T, and I had a meeting with management of Scenic Railway and asked them to share the work with us. That's what we came to. We went and sat with them and asked them to share the work with us. They can say, well, we give certain taxi drivers because certain taxi guys who had big vans, they went and they worked with them. So they couldn't say, well, we're not working with taxi drivers. But that was a selfish move because you're a member of an association of which you want representation. But at the same time, you're going to the same people who are cutting your throat and say, give me something on the side. And I watched back. I've sat back and watched it over the years and laughed. So now it comes to the point where the rubber hit the road and we have to readdress all this. That was laying the cause as to what had happened. I would say that Minister Grant walked into a lot of this, not understanding what he was walking into, right? But I was able to make the case. I made a case to him. I tried to make the case to him because he could understand. He could not understand how 3 large ships could be in downtown Bastia. And taxi drivers are walking away without getting work for 2-3 days. Mr. Grant told me he could not understand that.
But how can he not understand it?
Well, wait.
When you have the numbers that are coming off of that ship.
Hold on. I was able to appeal to the then director, Mr. Menon. He's the chairman of the tourism board. And he came and spent, well, at least 2 days, two different days, and watched your operation. Had a better understanding. So you can stay in your office and get all the report from the folks on the ground. And you have to take their narrative because you're not coming to see for yourself. I was able to get Mr. Menon to come down there on 2 occasions. And given that he was there, Calvin Webb, who was unaware of what was happening, was by the gate arguing, 2 days now, 3 days now, me ain't gonna work, blah, 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 blah. The reality is, the whole thing was mismanaged. In terms of the amount of person given a license, the percentage of work going to the larger corporations. I asked the CEO at one point, this is Raquel Brown, I asked her, has there been any feasibility study done as to, well, to determine how many drivers the taxi can get? How many drivers you can bring into the taxi business? She said no. And I'm thinking, you're building a new port. This would be my approach. I would let the new port build and then do a feasibility study. And 1 year after, I say, okay, Pier 1 can take 200 taxi drivers. Pier 2 can take another 200. And the airport will have 50 and Frigate Bay should have 25. You do your study and you determine how best to move forward. But this is all free for all where everybody was thrown into what was a nice taxi service. It became a hustle because people were encouraged to go and get loans to get vehicles. During the high season, you will see the mega ships downtown. They look great, they look lucrative. And so people were encouraged to go and get. And they invested. And they go to the ports. They have maybe 2 weeks, training. And they see day 1, no work. Day 2, no work. No 3, no work. Okay, the tours are $15 a head, pay me 10. It became a hustle. That because the thing was mismanaged. So you're encouraged to invest, but you don't know what you're investing into because when you get down there, it becomes a hustle. I did a demonstration on the streets when I was a member of the tourism board and a big PAM supporter because there was a policy I thought was not beneficial to taxi in general. And some people didn't understand it. It was all about equity. And something else was spiraling out of control. So what we're seeing today is a result of incremental things happening. And now with COVID, enforcing these measures, guys who have to go and face the bank and feed their families, you're getting enough subsistence. For those who got the monthly subsistence, to help buy food. But in terms of addressing your fundamental mortgage payments, it is not enough. The solution is
one thing, and I'm going to go because I don't want to do like my 3 Christian people do. So my challenge is, I've said at the port, I have, and I've watched it, and it makes me cry. It really does. to see, like you say, it's become more of a hustle than a career or profession. The second thing that bothers me, and I've discussed this with tourism, St. Kitts needs to not be so, I mean, it's late now, but not so cruise-focused. You have beautiful stayover properties, and stayover is where your money is. Stayover is where you have another chance to make money. You have clients who may want to go to dinner, who may want to go on a tour, who may want to do this, and they can hire a driver during their stay. So I think the mark was missed there as well, and so focused on the cruise ship and so focused on the cruise ship. And now I don't even know how many cruise ships you have coming. I haven't even seen it published to see how many are actually coming this year. So my prayers are to my family in St. Kitts because, Socrates, you know how I feel about that island. Sad that I cannot visit, but again, willing to send clients. But again, I need to understand how it works. Can they come off of the ship and say? So if you get the lead on that, or if you can send me the directions on how we do that, I'll be more than happy to follow. Again, it's just so sad and disheartening to watch. And one quick question, and I'll go.
Go ahead.
If you are a non-vax driver and your number is called, you must pay out of your own funds to be tested, and then you may not get work. Is that how it works?
Yes, you have the options to take the vaccination or be tested. I think it's weekly or bi-weekly. And once those tests are in place, then you're considered on the list. But
and the test is at your expense, right?
at your own expense, you have the option of taking, according to Matt Blatney, take the prick.
I have no further comment on that. Thank you so much for sharing.
I want to thank you for that contribution. You're calling on, is it Charlotte you're calling from?
It is. I'm on my sofa with my knee in the air. Yes, sir.
Okay. We want to thank you. As I said, you're a friend of the Federation, and I will walk for you on Breast Cancer Day. That walk, so not to worry about it. So they have perspective for
thank you so much.
A friend of the
And they'll be
Federation
in touch
calling.
with you as well. Yes.
Hello?
Have a good day, King. Bye.
Thank you very much. Calling from Charlotte, and I think it's time to pause for another word from our very kind sponsors.
TDC Automotive is paying for you. Deposit? We're paying. 3-month installments? We're paying. Pay nothing for 3 months because we are paying. Take a moment, catch your breath, and roll out with ease. Save over $20,000 off your new Toyota Hiace because TDC Automotive is paying. Get your Toyota Hiace today. TDC Automotive, #1 for a reason. Terms and conditions apply.
Triple the joy at home as you elevate your experience with Flo's new Triple Play bundles. For the first time ever, bundle up and save on internet, TV, and home phone together for more satisfaction. For as low as $175, enjoy up to 35 megabits per second super fast internet, 70 TV channels with HD entertainment, and free landline minutes with the all-in bundle. Visit your nearest Flo store to sign up for a Triple Play bundle. Conditions apply.
Quicks, 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 quicks. Quicks cleans many, 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 many dishes and many, 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 many more.
Quicks cleans many, 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 many dishes and many, 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 many more.
Yes, Quicks cleans many, 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 many dishes and many, 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 many more. Just 1 spoonful of concentrated Quicks cleans your whole sink full of dishes. Quicks, 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 clean. Quicks cleans many, 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 many dishes and many, 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 many more. Quicks, we wash more dishes.
Like us on Facebook, www.facebook.com/ramsupermarket. Follow us on Twitter, www.twitter.com/ramsupermarket. And subscribe to us on YouTube, www.youtube.com/ramsupermarket.
And I'm back. I was thanking Brenda for making a call all the way from Charlotte. And in the meantime, I just had a call from Mr. Talabo Bass. And he says, I must address this, that he's told that because he has about 5 vehicles, he and others, like Kenrick and Scotty, they cannot work at the airport because they classified as companies. And so he wants a discussion on that. And Winston and they want to call James Bond. They're told that they cannot work at the airport also because they have regular jobs. And we go to the phone lines. Caller, you're live on Voices.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir. What though?
I'm okay. How are you doing? I'm just listening. The topic is about the tourism industry, the taxi drivers, because that's what I've heard.
Yes, number of topics, yeah.
Okay. What I could say is that the bit I heard is about the taxi drivers and what work they get. Now, if you depend too much on the government, you might end up becoming an employee for the government. Even though they facilitate, just remember they facilitate the avenue. But if you depend on them to make sure you get the work, then you're an employee.
That is correct.
And the taxi drivers have to realize there's so many people in St. Kitts Nevis who need taxi service, as opposed to the tourists. So if the tourists never come, you will never do your taxi service. I think you have to, those persons have to change their mind. Think differently. Think broad. Because at the end of the day, the same tourists could come and they say they're going on the public service vehicles, which is the bus, as opposed to taxi. Because you travel, I'm sure you travel places already. And you walk away, I don't want to go on the bus, I want to go on the train, I want to go on the bus, as opposed to using taxi. You would have done that sometimes, right?
Yes.
You travel, right?
And all that you're saying is true. All that you're saying is true. But we're talking about a much bigger issue. That's only part of it.
No, you see, it seems big, but it's small, because if you're self-employed, if you do not diversify and change, just like how, let's say, for example, some person might call in the program and say, okay, they should try to do extra learning, because in some other countries, people actually go back to school, to learn to do other jobs because of the same thing. So what I'm saying, we say we have a market-driven economy. What some persons seem as if they're dependent on the government, and therefore the government, what some people are asking the government not to do, which is to be the biggest employer, that's what you are forcing the government back to do, to dictate to you. My friend slavery had finished long time ago. And my thing is, because I free. When I hear things like that, it just hurts me sometimes and get me angry. To let people see they have other people dictating how they live, if they're going to eat. That going back to slavery, because you have somebody dictating to you. Now, some person might say, I'm not in the taxi business, but if I was in the taxi business, the same thing I'm pointing out to you because I've seen it. Because the taxi service is for anybody who needs this service, not just for the people who come off the ship. And if that's the way you're going to go, if the ships never come, you see what happens? You'll never get a job, because what happens? Your mind is so fixed on that business that you never go into any other business. We have to change our way of thinking. The government only facilitates. Because at the end of the day, you know what? You know who bringing the ships here? The agents and so. Not even the government's bringing the ship, they might create certain things. And because the government have a vested interest, because they're going to get some money from it, yes, they do this and do that, but they could be privatized as well. Why are you going to depend on the private persons, the developers?
You did say, and I said before, all of you, what you're saying is true. But you did say you did not listen, you didn't hear the full gist of what I was saying. So I understand. I am not saying that we should wait and depend on government. That is not what I was advocating at all. Never have.
No, I didn't say you.
Not me personally. We're talking a general thing. I understand that. But had you heard...
Just giving my opinion.
And I accept that.
Just giving my opinion.
And I said, apart from opinion, what you said is true.
Anyone said anything. I'm just saying, if from my point of view, and how I see it, if I were a taxi driver, this is how I see it. I now become dependent on someone else for dictating to my life. And that is how I'm not saying, no, because I'm just sharing, I could do without saying anything. But because I know there's some persons who are just doing that, I'm just trying to give another perspective. Look, hello. If nothing ever changed, because the government could do as much as it wants. If the cruise ship decided not coming here, what are you going to do? Still wait until they come? They come 5 years after. So 5 years you haven't done anything? I'm just saying.
And I appreciate that.
Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the government do or anybody here do. The cruise ship people could find any little thing and say they're not going to come. You're still going to wait on them? That's the point I'm getting at.
I get your point, but you haven't got the minds because you didn't hear it. I don't blame you for not hearing the whole thing. No. And that what you're saying, I say, is true. And many taxi drivers have diversified, gone into different things, changed the business model. So it's not the best image to give up that the taxi drivers don't know what they're doing. They're just dependent on the government. That's wrong. That is wrong. That's not the narrative we're pushing. So you would have missed the point I was making. And I've blamed taxi drivers also equally for our current situation. At no point at all I have blamed the government for anything. No time at all this morning.
But listen what I'm saying. You are saying, I am saying you. I'm telling you, I didn't say you said anything. I'm just saying in broad. I'm saying if I were a taxi driver, I said if I were a taxi driver, this is what I would have done. Because just like how I'm seeing it now, I'm explaining to persons to look at it in a different way. I'm not saying you said anything. Do not get me wrong. You haven't said anything as far as I know. I call in, I ask a question, because according to what the program is, you bring a topic and you make a contribution, and that's what I'm doing. I'm not saying you said anything.
And I will welcome it. So, I said what you're saying is true.
So, but you're saying you don't want me to say you. So I'm just trying to clear up everything. I'm not saying you said anything.
Okay.
I'm just saying from my point of view, if I were a taxi driver and this and this, and used to look at the other thing of the way. But anyways, I'm just going to leave it there because I would have made my contribution. That's all.
And I appreciate it. I really do. Okay. And we want to thank the caller for the contribution he would have made to the dialogue this morning. Where are we now? Okay, Ambulance. We go straight back to the phone lines. Caller, you're live on Voices.
Greetings to you, Ernest.
Yes, yeah. How are you doing?
I am Irie. I'm giving thanks.
Beautiful.
How is the eye?
The eye is Irie to you.
Give thanks. You know that caller before me. Mm-hmm. He made a very valid point. Mm-hmm. Even though the onus is on the government to set a system that have a level playing field. If the setting system I won't get involved in it in any kind of way, then to make sure that the playing field is level. But he made a valid point because taxi drivers are what you call self-employed persons, isn't it?
By a large part, yes.
Yes. So therefore, create your niche. That's what he's saying. I mean, tourism. What do you think they say tourism on the water's dead?
Could be.
The bad news thing, tourism, you know. Tourism is what it is, you know. It's fragile. So therefore, you know, throughout many lines.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
How much of the program did you get this morning?
Not too much, but I know that people in the taxi services have showed out, other lines, you know? Mm-hmm. So I know the point you was making to him, that it is happening, but he's saying that the sort of dependency on the government, who is not even in control within the scheme of things to a full level, it is elusive. It is not good.
And that is true.
And,
but this is not about...
Say what you're saying.
This is not about dependency on the government. That is not what we were saying. It was never about that.
Okay. But it might come across that way. You know, it might come across that way. And as we said before, the government is not fully in control of things where that is concerned. Agents and all kind of different corners. And whatever involvement is coming forth from the government on behalf of the taxi drivers, which is citizens of the Federation, they ought to create a level playing field, and where that is concerned, you all should just ready for that. but not putting full dependency on the state, on the government.
That's your point of view based on what you understand.
You know, and I want to wish you all the best in terms of rallying, really agitating for a level playing field where that is concerned. It is important. No, we everybody inside this thing together. Nobody is human, and some is sub. All of us have to eat.
What would you recommend?
All of us have to eat. Everything have to argue with every smarty. You know. You're saying, my brother. Bless.
What I would recommend, right? Is that you and the previous caller stay tuned as best you can for when we have the press conference, so you get a broader picture of what we are saying and what we are asking for. We are asking for the work has to be shared, not for government handout. If we're going to use our tax dollars to bring the ships here, when they do arrive, the work has to be shared.
Agreed. That's what I call a level playing field.
It has to be shared, and it should not be dependent on the government alone, because we, the taxi membership, have a major role to play. We've been complicit in allowing this perfect storm to work against us.
Yes.
So we now have to get us together and work it out, not dependent on the government, but based on what went before.
Yes.
And where this and that person fell short, it has to be addressed.
Yes, I agree.
And what is the bottom line? What is the bottom line?
But we'll continue to listen to whatever information is coming out, and let me encourage the IDM. Do the IDM juggling between the nationals, you know, people inside the federation? They do. Niches, more and more niches. You see it?
They do.
Yes.
Okay, what's the bottom line? What's the bottom line? What's the message? What is the message? The message is the work has to be shared. The message is the work has to be shared. Okay?
Yes, I agree.
Beautiful.
It is there to be shared. It has to be shared.
Beautiful.
But let me keep in mind that we can't put all the eggs in one basket. The tourism thing is fragile. Very fragile.
That is true.
Same?
Yes. I want to thank you for your call, your contribution as we approach the midday postcard. Before I leave, I want to say good day to Zara. Good day to Cleo. Thank you for my avatar that you sent me. Drew a nice picture of Granddaddy. It's great. Thank you so very much. And we now pause for the midday newscast. And hopefully we'll get some more calls from taxi drivers at the other end of that news break today. So thank you very much, and we talk to you after.
Feel the magic happening. Campari. Taste.
Something incredible happens when Campari is mixed just right. Like Campari and orange juice poured over ice. Taste it. Try it tonight. Bitter, sweeter, better. Campari. Must be 18 years and older. Drink responsibly.
Shopping with TDC just got much easier. Here's how. Log on to shoptdcgroup.com. Shop at your convenience at any time, from anywhere, with your smartphone, tablet, or computer. With our safe and secure payment checkout, you choose the option to pick up in-store or have your goods delivered right to your door. It's that easy. Shop tdcgroup.com, your one-stop online store.
Shop anywhere, shop anytime, same quality you love. Now online. Shop
www.shoptdcgroup.com.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
Maybe
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
We are faced with tough decisions every day, but choosing the right home or motor insurance shouldn't be one. You need fast claim settlement from a company that's been rooted for over 31 years. And don't forget the A Excellent rating by AM Best. Make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Reliable insurance that you can count on. Get a quote today for your home, motor, contents, and liability insurance needs, and make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance. Tomorrow secured. Local agents, Dalil Walwyn & Co. Limited. Telephone 465-2631 or 469-5303 for the Nevis office.
With the WINNFM News, I am Devon Cornelius. In our headlines, NEMA facilitates training for field hospitals across the region. Government of Antigua and Barbuda extends vaccination mandate to the private sector. The family of Mia Makano accuses Orange County Police of not doing due diligence in investigations into her disappearance during the initial stages. Now the details. The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, is facilitating training of 30 people from St. Kitts and Nevis for the set-up and disassembling of field hospitals recently donated by the United States government. The 30 participants are from the St. Kitts and Nevis Red Cross, the Nevis Disaster Management Department, St. Kitts and Nevis Fire and Rescue Services, Public Works Department, St. Kitts and Nevis Defense Force, and maintenance staff from the Ministry of Health. Training sessions began Monday and are expected to run until Thursday, October 14th, 2021. According to a statement from NEMA, the field hospitals are intended to complement the country's hospitals and medical facilities by providing care to the COVID-19 patients. The donation was made through the U.S. Southern Command as part of their ongoing partnership with NEMA and the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. In regional news,
starting next Friday, October 15th, Antigua and Barbuda's Information Minister Melford Nicholas says certain private sector businesses will have to ensure that all their staff have been vaccinated against COVID-19.
From the 15th of this month going forward, Cabinet has agreed that the mandate should be
extended, will be extended. Vaccine mandate will be extended to include all of the essential services, both public and private, and the financial service institutions to include the banks, insurance companies, credit unions, and similar organizations.
The first hint that this kind of development was possible was given by Prime Minister Gaston Brown last month, when he said that the government would explore additional vaccine mandates should the country fail to reach herd immunity within the next few months. Despite an increase in vaccination figures ever since the announcement in mid-September of mandated vaccination for many workers within the public sector, and some months still to go before the Prime Minister's deadline, the government wants to move up the timeline for a return to something approaching normal life. That meant action in the private sector.
What we want to ensure is that these organizations, these private sector organizations, put in place a necessary regime to ensure that their places are safe for commerce and they are safe for the employees as well. So we would want all of the employees within these organizations to be a part of the mandate.
The policy does not require customers to be vaccinated, only employees who will have to proceed on unpaid leave should they remain unvaccinated. Antigua's government has expressed high expectations for the rollout of the new policy, saying they anticipate a high turnout at vaccination centers next week, as had occurred before the public sector vaccine mandates went into effect. The government believes that the private sector will welcome the nudge, as having as much of the population as possible vaccinated will be to the benefit of the business community. A full reopening of the economy, the government says, can't happen unless there's an acceptable number of people protected against COVID-19. Meanwhile, a senior government official is facing the consequence of non-compliance with the government's new vaccination policy. Reports are that National Parks Commissioner Anne-Marie Martin has been absent from office since October 1st, when the mandate took full effect. The Antigua Observer reports that Martin's request for a religious exemption was denied. Should she continue to be idled as a result of remaining unvaccinated, Martin will soon begin to use up vacation days, during which she will not be eligible to draw a salary. Once those have been exhausted, further disciplinary action may be initiated.
We now bring you these international reports.
Mia Marcano's family is demanding answers from the sheriff's office in Orange County, Florida, and is arguing that police may have allowed the young woman's accused killer to slip through their fingers. On Wednesday, the Marcano family held a press conference with their attorney, Daryl Washington, during which they alleged that several aspects of the investigation had been overlooked by the police in its initial stages. Relatives said they requested a welfare check at Marcano's apartment after realizing that the young woman of Caribbean descent failed to board her flight to Fort Lauderdale on Friday, September 24th. The deputy who responded reportedly found access to her bedroom was blocked, and after climbing through a window that was tampered with, realized that the blockage was because a dresser had been moved across the room and placed behind her bedroom door to prevent it from opening. But that information was never communicated to Marcano's family, they claim. Neither did the deputy offer guidance on what course of action would be taken by authorities following the discoveries in the apartment. When her relatives themselves visited the apartment of the young woman, who was still believed to be missing at the time, they say they saw signs of a struggle. They also found a box cutter that they determined did not belong to the young woman. Shortly after searching the apartment, family members ran into the main suspect, Armando Caballero, outside of Marcano's apartment building. The family said from that interaction with him, they immediately knew he was involved in Mia's disappearance. A major red flag for the family was Caballero's references to being in contact with one of Marcano's friends, someone who family members say does not exist.
But no one knows Tati. You keep mentioning Tati and no one knows Tati. The roommates don't even know Tati.
You've been sleeping since 10
o'clock. You keep saying
and all of
Tati
a
is
sudden
a
you're showing
friend.
up here at 4 o'clock in the morning
Because
looking
me
for
and
me.
Tati were conversating about it till I finally, it came
Okay,
up.
but
Should
Tati
I go and
is
see
someone-
if I see anything?
No one knows Tati. That's my whole thing. Not
Tati
even the
is
roommate
an
knows
employee
Tati.
here.
She's an employee, but you keep saying Tati is a friend and that you've all hung out together. No one here knows Tati. All her
Well,
other
not
friends
all
showed up. Her
these
closest
people.
friends that live in the complex were all here with us early on. No one knows Tati. Only you. Whoever Tati is, and Tati's on the phone, she shouldn't even be on the phone right now. As of right now, you have sent obsessive texts to Mia. We have all seen the text. You talked about giving her your life savings. You cash apped her money, and you claim that you weren't in touch.
Who told her gave
It's
her
on
life
text.
savings? I never
As
said
a matter
that.
of fact, we're going to get a police report to pull your phone records if that's the case. There's evidence of obsession, of something. You're fascinated with me.
The family says that key evidence, including fingerprints lifted by a security guard from the tampered window, was blatantly ignored by the deputies. They claim that the deputies laughingly refused to take the prints, saying that the young woman's disappearance was, quote, not a high priority case. The family also alleges that camera footage of the apartment complex and key fob records were also dismissed as evidence by deputies, so that relatives had no leverage with the apartment manager when they requested that information early on in the investigation. Instead, the apartment office told the family that their efforts were irritating to the manager. Not only did the deceased woman live in the complex, Marcano was also an employee. She worked in the leasing office of Arden Villas Apartments. It was only after Caballero was found dead by apparent suicide that authorities determined the key fob information and surveillance footage to be important evidence. Following the family's blistering critique of the handling of the case, Orange County Sheriff John Mina responded in a public statement. He explained that the police had no reason to detain Caballero.
At the time the video was taken, there was no basis for our deputies to detain or arrest Armando Caballero. Our deputies are not permitted to arrest or detain someone based on a hunch or based on what someone else is saying. Instead, they must establish facts to justify such a detention. So, sadly, detaining Caballero at 4:30 a.m. would not have changed the fact that Caballero left her body at the Timber Scan Apartments between 8 and 9 p.m. The night before. That's a full 8 hours before that video was taken, and actually it was before the sheriff's office was even called to look into, to check the well-being of Mia.
Acknowledging the family's concerns about his deputy's conduct, Mina says that his office will be looking into the matter. He offered sympathies to the Marcano family and affirmed that Armando Caballero was indeed the man responsible for Mia's death.
Some hospitals in Canada and the United States are demanding people get the COVID vaccine in order to get a life-saving transplant. CTV's medical specialist Avis Favreau has the details.
There are often long waits for organ transplant, a scarce resource, with some 4,300 Canadians on the list for the gift of life. Now, Canada's largest transplant centre, the University Health Network, has become the first to restrict these precious organs only to those who have been vaccinated against COVID-19.
Certainly, many other programs are very seriously looking at this. You can't be actively drinking and be listed for a liver transplant. You can't actively be smoking and be listed for a lung transplant. And this is the same kind of thing, really.
Doctors say these vaccines work better when given before surgery, and the unvaccinated face a higher risk of organ rejection by up to 12% and dying from COVID by up to 30%. The policy may be a first in Canada, but in the U.S., some hospitals are already seeing it cause friction.
For me, it was I think it was in a state of disbelief.
This woman in Colorado needs a kidney transplant, and she's lined up a willing donor. But they've both been removed from one hospital's transplant list because they refused vaccination.
It feels a little bit like my transplant is being held hostage, and there's only one decision that I'm being left with.
And it may be a trend, say some, that will grow.
This is not about making a value judgment on people's lifestyle or habits or whatever, but more about their capacity to benefit from the intervention.
Even those who are already on the transplant waiting list may not have a choice, with those not vaccinated facing the possibility they may lose their spot. Avis Favreau, CTV News, Toronto.
You were listening to the WINNFM 98.9 newscast. Let's recap our top stories. NEMA facilitates training for field hospitals Across the region, government of Antigua and Barbuda extends vaccination mandate to the private sector. The family of Mia Macano accuses Orange County Police of not doing due diligence in investigations into her disappearance during the initial stages. Devon Cornelius, WINNFM, thank you for listening.
That was the WINNFM Headline News. The Headline News was brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
We are faced with tough decisions every day, but choosing the right home or motor insurance shouldn't be one. You need fast claim settlement from a company that's been rooted for over 31 years. And don't forget the A Excellent rating by AM Best. Make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Reliable insurance that you can count on. Get a quote today for your home, motor, contents, and liability insurance needs, and make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance. Tomorrow secured. Local agents, Dalil Walwyn & Co. Limited. Telephone 465-2631 or 469-5303 for the Nevis office.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
With over a century of perfection behind the Mackeson name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness, it's no wonder Mackeson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoyed the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Mackeson. All hail the king.
Please drink responsibly. Found the sound 98.9. WINNMedia
Hero. September is the month of heroes in St. Kitts and Nevis. And for the months of September to October, Hosford's Automotive wants you to be a hero too. Yes! Drive like a hero at the massive Hosford's Automotive Be a Hero sales event. Go to Hosford's Automotive today and drive away like a hero with up to $35,000 discount on select models. Your choice of either free gas for 3 months or up to $1,000 in free groceries. Pay just 10% VAT. Yeah, just 10% VAT. Free servicing for 1 year. Free bill of sale. Free registration, licensing, and tinting. 0 down payment. That's right. Absolutely 0 down payment. And much, much more. Drive away like a hero from Hosford's Be a Hero sales event. The biggest, most heroic sales event ever in the Federation. Terms and conditions apply. See store for details.
Saying good afternoon to one and all once again. In case you're just logging in, you are tuned to Voices. That's on WINNFM 98.9. My name is Socrates, host of today's program, and we had a very scintillating discussion this morning. Number of topics were actually posted out there, and we spoke about yesterday being the 10th of October, World Mental Health Day. We know that November is still the month of breast cancer. We touched on the passing of fellow taxi driver Mr. Lawrence Manning, aka Lolly. We touched on the fact that we know up to 19 in terms of deaths due to COVID-19. And then we spoke about the request for taxi drivers to hold a press conference, and I would ask all the folks who have concerns and are not sure as to what the issues are to try and follow us. We'd like to have a good discussion, broad base, to explain and try to come to some sort of understanding as to what our current status is in terms of when the ships arrive, the expectations in terms of work being dispensed to the drivers who are in that rotation. So that's where we were. Unfortunately, some people got the impression we were asking for government. How should I put it? I was seeking a dependency on government. The whole issue with the government came in because of certain things that took place where they were compliant. I always say sometimes unwittingly into some of the policies that had created this situation where ships are now coming. The taxi drivers or the taxi tour guides were actually just more than tour guides, taxi tour guides / operators. Expectations have been raised, anticipated that when things reopen, even though we're on a trial basis and we only get in a large ship every fortnight when we compare what's happening in St. Martin, and I dare say that those larger ships that are now visiting St. Martin, there was a schedule for those very ships to be visiting St. Kitts on those very dates. But there was a window in which those bookings would have had to take place. Unfortunately, there was some procrastination, and the ship said, you know what, you're wasting time, I'll go on elsewhere. We go to the phone lines. Caller, you're live on Voices. Welcome to the program.
Hi, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Not too bad for an old man. Yourself?
Not too bad for getting old, man.
Wonderful. Talk to me.
Good. Yes, let me say good afternoon to the listening audience also, and the public domain.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to part of the presentation and people calling in. And one guy was talking about the dependence of folks. But it is sad that conveniently people use the word dependent a lot when it comes to some people, because the society depends on government for quite a lot. For health care, for education, for put other things in place, for garbage pickup. You got to depend.
Okay.
I mean, it's not that taxi drivers are wasting and depending them in more all the ways. We have to. They use our money to try and get ship here. They go to the trade. They go to the Caribbean cruise and they use our money.
Mm-hmm.
So not only if we sort of depend on them to bring cruise ship here. And of course, the government must have things in place for a fair trade among the people. Government should not deliberately flood the market. And because the market was flooded, the backlash is so great when it comes to the cruise industry. To be honest with you, King, it's the worst micromanagement apart from the COVID I've ever seen.
At the port? Or the industry in general?
From the tourism authority is.
Okay.
I mean, imagine a man, a member of an association, single taxi association, at the airport, have on the uniform shirt and the uniform pants. But because one of the tourism people don't know what the uniform is, he denied that driver of getting to work that day and tell him he's out the uniform.
In this current environment?
Well, correctly there. I mean, you're working for tourism for 4, 5, 6 years and don't know the association uniform. And not only that, deny a man of a job.
Deny the job. Okay.
Yes. It was brought to my attention. I brought it to the president or the acting president's attention. I don't know how we will get this, but I felt they should apologize to the person and compensate that person.
He was in uniform. The person didn't recognize the uniform and so denied him a job?
He had on association shirt, the taxi association shirt, that comes with a blue pant or a black pant. But the guy had on a blue pant. But the guy from tourism tell him, hey, you're out of uniform. And he was dead wrong. And denied him a job. And these are the kind of things, you know, I see happening.
What about the hat issue?
The hat. A man should, people wear hats for health reasons. Some people can't take the sun. Some people going bald. I don't see a problem with a hat that easily can complement the uniform.
You're wearing a uniform.
Go in the head.
You're wearing a uniform. You're an elder person. You wear a hat to protect your dome, and you're told because you wear a hat you can't get a job?
It's nonsense. And this is why drivers should stand up. When these kind of things stand up and say, we're moving unless this person get his job. Because I mean, what is a hat? They say you can't walk in a hat. No, I never hear such a thing yet. I never, when a teacher could walk in a hat if you want. Policeman walk in a hat. I mean, your hat is your hat.
But I've seen that gentleman over the many, many years always wearing a hat.
But other people wear the hat over the years. The man Arnold, who used to be down the bed, always got on the hat. He passed away. I think he passed away now.
He passed.
But King, there are so much things that need to be corrected. I mean, we have a CEO in tourism making $20,000 a month and sending home people, and people going home making $2,000. Local people going home making $2,000, $3,000. And one woman making $21,000 a month. And local people, she's not from here.
I'm gonna do a Fergie on you. Do I call up? We can't substantiate that.
Investigate.
It may require investigation, but at the moment, we at WINNMedia cannot.
I mentioned it to Marriott. I didn't hide from it. It's a fact.
You mentioned it to her?
It's a fact, man. Huh?
You mentioned it before in another forum?
Yes. Oh, the man, right in front of the person. You know, one time, about 2 years ago, just before the pandemic, when we had the domination of many of certain boats, the Spanish guys dominated the boat. And you aware of that, right?
Of course.
So one day, the lady was coming across by the circle area. And I dragged to her attention. I said, you see how these Spanish guys are dominating us? You know what she said to me?
Learn Spanish?
You know I'm going to learn Spanish. In a hostile way. In a hostile way, she tell me why I don't go learn Spanish. She couldn't say that to certain people in certain countries.
Let's not try to make it as a personal attack. Let's try not to go there, but I understand the issue.
Things that are happening, it's not a personal, but we need to look at it. We need to look at these things.
Okay, let me ask a question. When we get the press conference going, what do you want the public? I mean, there are times you can give indication of some of the primary issues. Press conference call, what do you want the public to know?
King, what I'll do, I'll take my time, sit down, and make a note. Make some notes. And I could always pass them to you, and I could call in and stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
But I want you to
like
think of this in the meantime.
I will like that the press conference will have the what is happening.
Yeah, we'll have an agenda.
It is negatively affecting the drivers, and what you expect to be happening, and what should be happening in terms of the distribution work and the lots of regulation about you can't wear a hat, a cap that you've been wearing for 40 years.
On that note, when the taxi associations were more involved and didn't challenge anybody wearing hats, do you recall how many times taxi drivers would run to tourism with complaint after complaint after complaint, saying that they want tourism to take it over? You recall that?
But look at it this way too.
They take it over now?
Before the pandemic, when we outside in the circle area, how many people we had from the sun?
Of course.
In the sun standing, you wear hat. No, you can't wear hat. Could a female taxi driver wear hat? Could a female taxi driver have her hair wrapped? Answer me. I mean, you got some people with their locks and they wrap their head and in a nice way. You just tell them you can't wrap their head now. Because a man can't wear a hat. Why you should a woman wear a hat and wrap she head? Yes, you understand me?
Are you there?
The next thing, before I go, I don't want to take up too much time, okay? I want to the attention of the Transportation Board / government about I've seen a pattern developing between lots of public bus drivers. Lots of negative stuff is happening. And the government has a responsibility to protect its citizens. Whether it's fast driving, vulgar in terms of music. You do that?
Yeah. I'm thinking the Traffic Department and Transportation Board directly. I'm thinking...
Well, the Transportation Board must put things in place, you know. Because you can't have people drinking and smoking in their regular working hours, driving the public.
That would be a major concern that has to be addressed.
We are waiting for something to explore.
I was saying that's an immediate concern. The question is, has any report been made to the relevant authorities? Just observing and not really reporting doesn't quite help the situation.
I don't know if any report was made to the relevant authorities. But I have been observing it.
Okay,
I hardly drive a bus. I have children, I have family members who ride on these buses. And it's a concern to them. And I've seen it, and it's a concern to me.
Okay. You're sharing here.
Understand me?
And I appreciate that, but that information must go directly to the relevant authorities.
I don't have to go. I'm saying that the ear, somebody is listening, somebody will hear.
Okay, this is your way of sharing. I appreciate that.
Yes, people know my voice, they know it is. So it's not that thing. Yes, I can write the report.
You're one of the persons who did not depend on the government when things went south. You diversified. I mean, people get the impression that we're just sitting waiting, doing nothing.
I was forced to.
You're forced to.
And the circumstances came at the right time.
Right.
They came.
Okay. Appreciate that.
So came at the right time.
Okay.
When people feel like people have been going for less money, people in extra less $10, people have been trying.
I know that.
But everybody cannot diversify into a field that is profitable.
I know.
Everybody cannot be diversified in the field, and when little tourists come, we're going to move them. And then if you get a little job to help you because you're working for almost 2 years, you get a little job, they say, you got a little job, you can't work.
The thing is, not to keep it too long, the thing is, there is this situation where you would have invested like any other entity, and you have waited, you've kept faith, the government has assisted, you've tried to diversify. The fact is, it is not enough to meet your mortgage. Now that the ships are coming, all we're saying, the work has to be shared. That's all. Not that all you have to go, don't depend on government. The ships coming. The work has to be shared. As simple as that.
Yeah, but the ships, I'm happy that you brought, you're saying that, you brought something back into my mind. Apparently, it's only in St. Christopher and Nevis and Carambola, as somebody said, that you cannot get your people as long as they don't book to the ship. In all the other islands, St. Martin, St. Thomas, Antigua, Antigua, people coming off and drivers are getting work. But this thing are being forced on the ship from the St. Kitts Authority end.
What I understand, I was made to understand that.
The ship, this is a local problem, They are telling the ship they want nobody to come off unless they book the ship, So they are preventing us directly from making money.
Okay.
This is not a ship thing. It's a local thing.
Policy?
And they must start the truth.
Okay. We'll get a chance to get their feedback. We will get a chance. We'll engage them, get their perspective before we hold the press conference so we can be fair to them, give them a chance to address the concerns currently being expressed by taxi drivers. Okay?
You tell us take the vaccine, and this going to happen and that going to happen. You take the vaccine, and now they tell you can't walk because of this, you can't walk because of that. They move the goalpost. They move the goalpost.
I want to thank you for calling, okay?
Man can't make the money.
I want to thank you for calling. And I have a text from another driver at the airport saying that have they being treated like children up there, and this and that and that. And so you find, guys, it's time that you get the association back involved because you argue you don't want tourism to take it over. Well, they've done so. And we go back to the phone lines for another call. Caller, your live on voices. Welcome to the program.
Sacco, good afternoon.
Speaking. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Sacco.
Good afternoon, sir. Loud and clear.
This is Walford Atherton here speaking.
Senior, respected. Go right ahead.
Senior.
Respected.
Sacco.
Yes, sir.
It's a shame for me to say all what I'm about to say this afternoon. It is a sad day and a sad years for all taxi drivers since we have COVID.
Okay.
Sacco, you and Limat and others have said a mouthful about taxi drivers, but you all still drop the ball. I would like to tell each and every taxi driver in St. Kitts, a 50 years old taxi driver is saying to all taxi drivers in St. Kitts that I once used to think that we were self-employed. I am encouraging all taxi drivers not to pay any more business license. Stop paying business license. We don't have any business. Each and every one of us is working for the government. They choose who they want when they have a job. And they do as they like when they do have a job. They employ you. They give you a job. And if you ain't got on the clothes that they think that you ain't supposed to got on, you can't get a job. If you got a hat on your head, you can't get a job. If you like me, who talk back to them, you can't get a job. I have been punished by tourism for at least 10 to 15 years or more. I've been punished. I have not taken a vaccine. I got a business license.
Mm-hmm.
But they tell me I can't come to the airport to make a job. I have no other job. I do nothing else but 50 years of taxi business.
50 years.
And they said I must not come to the airport to get a job. So I get no job. I get nothing. I got to thank certain people in this country, people like Talbot and Terence Dolphin and a few others who come to the circus here and give me a stipend so that I could buy food a week time. In the circus, hardly could make $20 a day. Sometimes I got to get a job.
I've seen
I
it.
have to take $10.
I have seen
Cut it right down to $10 to get a job. My taxi is a Uber taxi now. And the Uber taxi is doing better than me.
I know it's not a laughing matter, right? But it's important to discuss these things.
Sako, taxi drivers today have given away all their business. They have no business. There has no such thing named business. When tourism come in to hold our hand for us, to say that we must get an ID, I go to all the taxi drivers. I said, do not accept this kind of ID from tourism, Mark St. Kitts. Our labor laws said St. Kitts Nevis. Our license say St. Kitts Nevis. The insurance say St. Kitts Nevis. The license on the bus, the number plate, say St. Kitts Nevis. Then why are we going to take an ID Mark St. Kitts? You mean that we're trying the labor laws down the ground? We're trying away the license down the ground? I mean, I can't understand. All of them went against me, say I don't want no law and no order. So tourism get a foot in. Next thing they come up with some kind of decal. Gentlemen, if the government, this is what I tell them, gentlemen, if the government want to raise the license fees on the buses, the taxes, let them raise the license fee. Not let them give us the other thing about no decal. Let them raise the fee. This decal is going to put you in trouble. Now they're telling you if you want a decal, you got to get a doctor's certificate. You got to get a certificate from the police to prove that you ain't commit no crime. And on they're saying. So I try to put up a fight with all of them. And since I'm doing that, I'm getting blows can't done. I can't make no money. I had to give back to this year bus because I ain't making not even $1 to buy food, much less to pay TDC for a bus. And a lot of other taxi drivers, some 15 of them by Hasford take away the bus. Take away the bus, they ain't gonna bus, they ain't working. But you still want to say you want that they want some kind of business license and want decal license and want ID license. Well, where the hell you going to find the money to pay them? I mean, I can't understand. But the taxi drivers, them feel like they're doing themselves something when they follow in tourism up front. They're not doing themselves any good. They're doing themselves more harm than anything else.
But do you recall?
I wouldn't worry about the association.
Okay.
We ain't got an association.
I know
the association, them leaders are puppy shows.
I am one.
They don't know their right.
I am one of the leaders, Wally.
Sakoti,
yes,
well,
sir.
sorry if I insult in your ears.
No, it's okay.
But I am talking as a seat.
I hear you. But before we go to the break, you remember the chorus of taxi drivers saying they want tourism to take it over?
Yes.
Right.
I don't know how you could go business I want. Me got a bus. And my son got one. And as far as me concerned, we ain't got nothing because we ain't making no money from them, you know?
I know.
And I had to put in gas in them every day.
Anyway, we got to pause for a sponsor break at the moment. So I want to...
me go on company radio with you one day.
Definitely. Well, thank you for your call.
We ain't getting to talk all when me want to talk.
Call back. I got to go to a station break, but I'll call back if you can. Or if you want to come in and sit with me for 2 hours, that'll be wonderful, okay?
Okay, cool.
All right, so we go for a word for our sponsors.
It's happening again. By popular demand, we're doing it again. Yep, we're doing it again. Horseman's Furniture and Appliances is once again giving away double cash back for free groceries for the months of September to December. Every customer at the Horseman's Furniture and Appliances showroom in St. Kitts and in Nevis gets double cash back coupons for absolutely free groceries. But it doesn't stop there. Every higher purchase customer will also get a chance to win. Yep, get double cash back for free groceries and a chance to win absolutely free groceries for a year with every $100 spent on higher purchase. By popular demand, we're doing it again. Double cash back for free groceries plus a chance to win free groceries for a year. Come to Horseman's Furniture and Appliances today and expect low prices, expect great quality, expect free delivery, expect double cash back for free groceries, expect a chance to win free groceries for a year, expect the extraordinary terms and conditions apply.
And we're back with the program. I want to say good afternoon to Mr. Peter Ingle Jury. Chris Collins, where are you today? Phone lines, call your live on voices.
Good afternoon, the King.
Good afternoon, sir. How about now?
I'm giving thanks for
I
life.
hope you were able to get the fullness with the whole start to the program today. I hope you got it. Did you?
I actually tuned in after the lunch break and I heard...
You heard Wally. You heard Yatters.
No, a voice before Wally.
Yatters.
I recognize the voice also.
Uh-huh.
And so, may I dub this afternoon session as taxi drivers?
Yes, we're looking to get a press conference going. That was the gist of what today's discussion was about. We spoke about Lolly, the passing of Lolly, Lawrence Manning. We spoke about November being Breast Cancer Month, yesterday being World Mental Health Day, different things. We have 19 deaths attributed to COVID, and now we're talking about taxi issues. But any topic you want to, Lance, go ahead.
Can I get your permission to speak?
Certainly.
Thank you. As my elder, I have to do that. And I wish to share the sentiment with Mr. Walford Atherton, my elder also.
Yes.
And Mr. Yatters, Mr. Matthew.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is no secret that we have a lot to talk about. And we are equally to be blamed for our demise.
Definitely. I want to hear somebody say that.
No, I make no bones of it. Even though the numbers are strength, and what are the purpose of taxi associations? What are the purpose? What are the intent of taxi associations? We say Ubuntu. You look for me, I look for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so with all associations and other things, we see various the teachers' fraternities, the nursing fraternities, they come together, the police fraternities, different organizations come together for a common good. Collectively, they have strength. And when are we going to utilize our strength as taxi drivers? I mean, I cannot really blame, the blame is equally to be shared among every individual taxi driver, be it he is a president or just a layman in the fraternity. I just cannot look at a president of the taxi association and lay the blame solely and squarely at that individual's feet. So collectively, we all can be blamed and should be blamed for what is happening.
That is correct.
Have the endeavors to really make things happen. Here is it. We respect the tourism authority and for whatever organization, whatever they would do to allow the ships to come here. And then it is taken over by us in terms of moving these volumes of people. We brag and boast about 1 million we passed. It's not one driver transported. How many of that 1 million was taken around to the beaches and the different sites? And so, yes, we have tried, but we have failed miserably in more ways than one. But how can we salvage what remains? How can we salvage what remains if there is anything remained of the little muster that we can collectively get this thing right. In terms of what you say we're gonna have what? A press conference?
Yes, but the thinking is, I was speaking to a former president this morning, and I reminded him of the time then we took a resolution after discussing with the other association that we would amalgamate and have one body going forward to negotiate on our behalf, because we were being played continuously one against the other every time we sat with these agents to negotiate prices for the new season. Oh, we have to drop from 11 to 12 because so and so on. Or we refuse. They called the other association. They would take 11. And so we decided that was not working in our best interest. We took a resolution to amalgamate and work on the general of all the drivers. And the other association said no.
That tool.
But now I'm hearing now, they're thinking in that direction. Should that happen, it's a new day.
It has to be a new day. As the sun will shine tomorrow without it being witnessing it, it will shine. It has to be a new day. You know, talking about amalgamation and how one or two or three associations are somewhat like exposed to the demise of those who were able to drive a wedge between one person to deter them, and then everything falls flat. We have so many countless stories about that. It reminds me of the unification of the continent of Africa, where there were two groups, the Casablanca group and the Monrovia group. Some said independent now, some said let's do it now, some said let's wait and see. And that complacency allowed other presidents to consolidate themselves and say, I am a president of this country. I don't want to unite with nobody. It is time for us to amalgamate and get it right if we are to salvage anything that remains from the taxi fraternity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If no ands and no buts about it. Because how are we going to even look out members? I have seen efforts of helping, assisting, in terms of Mr. Wansford talking about 15 drivers who have lost their vehicles, and the numbers might be higher or less, but he just put out a rough figure out there. And others stand to lose theirs. What if things change for the better, where the cruise industry rebound in such a way that we really require these amounts of persons to move our guests back and forth? Because they're the things that would say, like, after a person had an experience, they will have the review. We don't want to see ourselves as a destination, having persons to come and we cannot take them from point A to point B. There are times when even certain H buses would have come in to fill the void, and other vehicles would have come in to fill the void. That is why the industry has grown to where it is today. And so, how are we going to get this thing done? Because we really, I don't want to see me cry, but I have to echo my sentiment in terms of the way my voice should lend to the debate as to how can we salvage this thing? How can we? Because it's a love and a care and for what we do. We like to interact with our guests. I like to, and others like to. I know I have something to offer. We are proud of St. Kitts and Nevis, and so we are doing our part, and we need to do our part in a more, forthright way, so that we can let our partners, the tourism knows that yes, we are partners, but
it's a managerial problem.
Like that, we need to be partners in a respectful way.
Yes.
And in a reciprocal way.
It's a managerial problem.
Likewise, it should also benefit the taxi association. I have said I'm going to allow some other taxi driver. They're eager.
Much appreciated.
They're waiting their call, so I
hope
one calls in. Thanks for listening.
The whole thing about how can we, it comes down to management, and we have the capacity to address it. right? There was a time when the associations, I won't say ran things, but they were consulted and respected in any decision that the tourism authority was making. And then that was taken away. You could not be a taxi driver unless the presidents and the executive were consulted. How much more drivers can you take? Or we can take 2 or 3. That consultation was important. And then we would get drivers in and there would be in a probationary period. Then it went to a free-for-all. It was prior to an election. And you question, well, how come you can tax? Oh, election coming. The minister gave me. And that's the whole thing broke down. And Minister Grant walked into that. He inherited that problem. And so whereby he trusted his functionaries. That's a policy that he walked into. People just came in and would bypass the associations and the structure, go straight to the minister and get his license. So they didn't come to the port beholden to any structure. I'm working for myself. Minister, give me this. And it became a hustle down there. But it can be managed. I took an issue with the policy Mr. Grant implemented down there, and I spoke with him. I asked Mr. Grant, who is advising you? This is wrong. And when he didn't think, I took him to the streets. I was told that because you're a member, you're a member of the board of directors of tourism, you can't. Because you're a PAM supporter, you can't. I took Mr. Grant to the street. We had 27 drivers who joined us. Others stayed in the circus and criticized. That very day, we had an audience in cabinet. The only person missing was the Honorable Mark Brantley. And when the PM asked about blah, 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 the others said to him, I wasn't part of it. I washed my hands of it. Right? Sean Richards said to me, Socrates, I hear you only have 17 drivers. I said, but we only have 17. Look which part we reach. That was a time for the two other presidents to sit and discuss our collective issues. But people didn't want to embarrass the government and this and that. It was not about politics for me. The issues that affected my livelihood as a tour guide / taxi driver. That was paramount. I didn't like the policy. It was wrong. And as a result, that policy robbed the Fortress and Black Rocks of a revenue stream. Because you put something in place and put the safaris up front, who told the guests, we are the tour guides, the other guys are taxi drivers, so we got the jobs to go to the beaches. They got the tours, but they would not go to the Fortress. And we go to the phone lines for a call. Call your live on Voices. Caller, you're live on Voices. Welcome to the program.
Good day, the King. How are you?
Not too bad, so go ahead. Have me in some today.
Wonderful. It's a pleasure having you. Right?
Go right ahead.
Calypso, Joe from Antigua sing a song and say, Doggy, mash it up. You remember that song?
Mm-hmm.
You sing a song and said, we are mortgage.
Yes.
Well, I would like to say that Lindsey Grant mash it up. And I just heard you saying that Lindsey Grant inherited this.
Yes, he did.
I'm not vexed with you for saying that he inherited it. But he escalated. When he could have stopped it, he escalated. And I am making an urgent plea to the Prime Minister. Either because all the portfolio belongs to the Prime Minister, he distributes it to who he wants distributed to. All the portfolio of this country belongs to the Prime Minister. He distributes.
And we lost you to signal dropout. I'm sorry about that. But I'm going to go on with record saying I would still support Mr. Grant being there. He inherited some policies which he should have overhauled. But that being said, I've been in forums where the CEO and Minister Grant was making the case for the ships to be given recognition at a certain time frame, blah, 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 blah. It didn't happen. The ship sailed. I can say he tried his best to get the NEOC and the other relevant bodies on board in a policy that would allow the ships to come in before they decide to sail elsewhere. They were waiting on an answer. They had a deadline until Wednesday. And Cabinet was supposed to meet on Monday and discuss it. And I guess in the procrastination, those same ships, the LU of the sea, of those who were supposed to come to St. Kitts and Nevis on those dates, those very dates, find Mr. Martin. So I would not throw Lindsey Grant out so readily. I understand that DuPont is asking for him to leave. But I believe in dialogue. I did speak with him. I asked him, Mr. Grant, who's advising you? He said, Socrates, call me. Call. And the time came, I went to the streets. And he took it personal. As a matter of fact, the very, very, very next day after the demonstration, Minister Grant, Petrol, the chap in the body guy in Challengers, and myself, we sat. Because I said to him, you need to meet with this person, blah, blah, blah. He says, put it in place. We started splatting it. And we discussed the very day after the demonstration I held against supporting Mr. Grant was against the policies. I have nothing personal against him. As a matter of fact, I like him. I have to, as a baby. But the fact is, policies that affected general body of taxi, I had an issue with that. It was some person's personal agenda that they put in place. And I protested, and then I got called a hypocrite. Oh, Sarkozy, you're against a safari, but look, you have a safari. The fact is, you had never seen my vehicle in that area. I protested against it. And that created a free-fall and all chaos because Mr. Grant is being reported to by the person on the ground. And he goes by what they said. As I said earlier, I was able to get Mr. Menon as the chairman of the Tourism Authority to come down and observe and see what the problems were, what was happening. You have to go on the ground and interact. Mr. Grant relied on reports, and sadly enough, the people tell you in the office what they want to hear. As it stands now, I think we can have dialogue and craft the way forward because the bottom line is the work has to be shared. I know he's embarrassed with the fact that ships are now coming, even though they asked for a trial period. We've had 2 visits by this particular ship, and we see the big entities making 2 and 3 trips fully loaded, and you can't get 8 taxi drivers to say, well, they got a job. Can't work. Can't work. The same way these entities invested, and I'm saying again, they should not have been given vehicles, either one of them. It's corporate greed. Mr. Heights from Scenic is on record of saying he did not come here to compete with the drivers, and he would not offer any transportation. That was ours. But when they saw the amount of money they had to pay out, they came up with a narrative, taxi drivers are unreliable, and they sold that to the public. And I blamed the then taxi leadership for not pushing back against that. Had they done so, this is not the case because the same entity who was saying that, we're talking about Cantos back then. The then CEO, who we worked for years, no problems, did all the tours, found it convenient to support Heights with that charge because he was thinking, if you give Scenic Railway the license to bring in buses, they're foreign. I am local, I must get. And he played the game. And so when we cornered Denzel Douglas in his office, and the third meeting, we said, this is wrong. He says, well, I only signed the thing because I thought it belongs to DuPont and Brady. That was a liar. Inasmuch, he said, as the vehicles are here, we can send them back. We will have a sharing arrangement, 1 ship to taxi. Let's go to phone lines. Call your live on voices.
I have given persons some time to call in, but there's so much to be discussed that if they will not call, I will have to
go ahead.
Force the call back. You said something about the transportation just now, about when the Scenic Railroad.
Yes.
Yes.
Are you aware of this?
And I am. I was not a part of the fraternity then, but I was told, and I am familiar. We are a small community, so the word would spread, and, yes, it was sold to the general public, and the general public not lay some blames on the taxi drivers, which I would admit a driver might have been late 1 or 2, but the bottom line...
Why were they late? Why were they late? They weren't late. They were given a certain time. You drop off your guests, say, at the airport there, for 9 o'clock. They shall come back at 3 for pickup. In the interim, you took a job to Frigate Bay because you can't wait between 9 and 3 for that return job. It can't pay you. So you would have taken a job to Frigate Bay, to the beaches or wherever, to come back in time for, 3 o'clock. So at 3 o'clock, you're waiting, but your pickup at the beach is 4:30. So at 3 o'clock, you're at the depot waiting, and you're waiting. But the train had a derailment in the countryside. And they would not give you that information. So you're waiting with all that uncertainty. And you look at your clock. Hey, listen, I got people on the beach, you know. So you got to pick up your people on the beach because if you leave them stranded, you're not been paid as yet. And this was something happening all the time. They had a number of hiccups. They just started. And they used that to say that taxi drivers were not reliable. And they pushed that. But it's not because we were late. Many times they were late and we had to go to the countryside to pick up the passengers because they had derailment. They never told the public.
I agree with the king. And you know what? I like your sentiment because for too long, I mean, you always echo this type of sentiment. But somehow, can I say you was a little bit lukewarm for the past couple of weeks?
You think I was lukewarm?
And you was
waiting for taxi driver to make a noise.
Right. So I like it. I like your sentiment because if you are a person of you are a president, you represent people and you must speak that way. I agree. Persons not knowing the full details of how that train
came about,
and I'm not concentrating on just the train alone.
Mm-hmm.
The point I'm trying to get is that we are the ones who will transport, and there's no time in this history as we will promote St. Kitts and Nevis, and as the numbers will grow to 1 million, 2 million, what have you, no one will have no monopoly on no transportation. So I want to echo the sentiment, and I want to send a stern warning to those persons who might think that they can monopolize and push out the small taxi persons who will do the transport, and they will fill the void. It's not going to happen. We will not allow that to happen. So speaking of transportation, we are the ones that invested to do this. And we, as guys, as persons, as presidents, should set the standards and to let everyone know that we're going to continue to do the transportation. No one can have no monopoly on moving 1 million persons, and in the future, they would not have the monopoly on doing so. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay. I can show you a picture. It's in the office of the Single Sex Association right now. About 14 persons in their blue shirts, I amongst them. Right? The late David Sampson amongst them. Standing there, we had staged a protest on that there, doing I think, the first operation of the scenic railway. Way back. That was the first call of the QE2 to St. Kitts, and we were down there, hoping to get numbers to protest the way the scenic was operating. Only 14 of us. One guy said, well, they pay me, so I gotta go work. And then later on, when scenic used them and brought in the buses, they started to complain, want you now to go and represent their concerns. I took to the streets, and it was too much. And I challenged Mr. Grant. And when the PM asked him in cabinet that day in front of me, Mr. Grant, we have to say, Mr. Grant says, I know my temper. I for open my mouth. But the fact is, the very next day we were seated across from each other as partners discussing issues and policy. It wasn't personal. I got slammed for it. I got ridiculed for it. It doesn't matter. It's a conviction I stood on. And I'll do it again. But I'm not leaving Sunday Point daily to come up here to ask taxi drivers to let's go this and that. And people ask me, let's go demonstrate. Demonstrate on what? What do you want to demonstrate for? Let's have dialogue. As a matter of fact, a few months ago, we put a petition together. We're talking about Flames Blandy from Liamiga, Mr. T from Single Taxi, myself. Put a document together. Ask them to fill out this form. This form will give an assessment of your situation, how you've been affected in COVID, and we can take this now to government to represent on your behalf. If we have about, say, 400 taxi drivers, it took us about a month and a half to get 80 to sign up. So here's the scenario. We go to government. We come to represent the taxi drivers. Okay. How many taxi drivers? 300, 350, 100. How many sign? 80. You have less than a third. You understand?
Regardless.
So this is not the first effort.
Because these are imperatives. These are things, hiccups would always be hiccups in our way. For whatever reason, these would be hiccups in our way. Persons will go on labor and everyone wants to benefit this pile. And yes, but for the fact that you were there and you have 80 signatories, that suffices suffice to be enough, more than enough, that yes, all would not come and sign for whatever reason. I would want all to come and sign, but 80 would represent the 320, let's say. Okay, if there are 400. So even though that may not transpire to be everybody come and sign, 80 is suffice enough. 5 is suffice enough.
Okay.
Enough, even though all should show an interest in their bread and butter. Okay. We're talking about bread and butter issues here.
Mm-hmm.
And we are a part of what this tourism is and everything. And I like your sentiment. I want you to keep it up.
Well, it's not only me. There's Mr. Brandy from
yes,
the
and by
Amigo,
now,
and
I know they tune in.
And we're working
by now,
together.
I know, because we have a thing amongst ourselves now where we will call a person, a member.
We have been collectively trying to get the audience with the Prime Minister for some time. And I think he's overseas at the moment, but we have been trying, based on the AT and the dialogue we've been having, to have an audience to explain the situation. But I was personally waiting to see how the second ship, well, the visit for the second ship operates, because there are things, so.
I am optimistic with you guys. I always encourage you guys to have it. I have a good relationship with all three of you, and I'm very optimistic about it. I doesn't come across myself bashing you guys for neither tourism. I does not bash tourism. I am saying that tourism is our partner, and that does not behave as a partner, and it needs to be stopped.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. I wish tourism well. They are there to do a service, to reciprocate all. The multiplying effect of each taxi person, you're talking about 400 persons who might have families. Yeah? Might have families, might have friends, might have other persons who multiply to show their interest when things is good, when 2, 3 ships are in the town. Everybody smiles, even though the bread or the money may not come in that individual person's pocket. It is good that the taxi man is making money, because he's going to patronize a small business or a big business, and the money will go around in our economy.
There you go.
That is what we're talking about.
Okay.
So we need true partnership, not pseudo partnership of tourism. As much as I love tourism,
we're going to start the dialogue.
Assume your responsibility in the way it ought to be done, so that all of us at the day, you rely and depend on a monthly salary. I depend on a bi-weekly or a day-to-day salary. Whether I get it today or tomorrow, I'm sufficed. And everybody can live and eat bread.
Okay, sir.
Thanks for listening.
We now go to the board and take a pause for a word from our sponsors, without whom this show would not be possible.
Not 5, not 10, but up to $20,000 off a new Toyota Hiace. Choose your Toyota Hiace model, choose your financial institution, and save up to $20,000. Roll out reliable, fresh, and in style with free licensing, registration, and tinting. It's a bus bonanza with up to $20,000 off. TDC Automotive, #1 for a reason.
We got about 40 minutes down before we come to the end of today's program. So, if folks want to join us, where the numbers to call again? I always get those steps. Help me the numbers in. 6620989, 7620989, 4631, and we have a caller as we speak. Caller, you're live on Voices. Go right ahead.
Hello.
How are you doing?
How are you, sir?
I'm okay. Yourself?
I listened with interest to your conversation with Africa just now. When I jumped in my car, I heard you all talking about derailment of the scenic train and then affecting time for taxi drivers. I heard you all talking about, I heard you talked about, what do you call it? Standing up on the day that the scenic railway opened, so that, like, you stood up against. Was it against? What is the? I mean, I can't remember going all the way back to 2003. So when the scenic train opened, But sure, I'm wondering what is the whole, why is there this negative stance towards the scenic train?
You see, there's a negative
As an
stance. I
employee
understand.
of the scenic train, I thought that I should call in.
Okay. You don't recall going all the way back. So let me try to bring it to the fore. When Desmond Heights came here to begin operations, he is on record as saying that he did not come here to provide any transportation that would compete with the taxi membership. Do you know about that?
No, I don't. I know that we've had buses.
It's a fact. He said that. And they started to engage into negotiations between the Sinkers Taxi and the Lima Taxi. I can call the names of the persons who are at the forefront of the negotiations, but they favored Lima because they figured that Sinkers Taxi was sticking up for a higher price. They were working one against the other. Right? And so Sinkers Taxi decided to take a position. On that day, it was the first call of the QM2, I think, or the QE2, and we were down there, and we didn't get the support. Members of the other associations, they're paying us, so we're going to work for them. And that Liminga taxi was the favored for the scenic railway. The operations, when it first started, had a number of hiccups. And they would engage taxi drivers to drop off the passengers at the depot in the morning, come back at a certain time in the afternoon, early afternoon. And we would do that, but in the interim, we would have other jobs take out here and there. You're at the depot waiting for the return of the train, which would have had a derailment here and there. And this happened oftentimes, but they would not tell us exactly, waiting.
I was back in 2003. I remember working there in 2004,
right.
From 2004.
And so, you're now having some other work.
We are talking, this is now 17 years later, Socrates. What is the issue now?
I'm missing something. Say again?
Huh?
I missed what you said.
I said we are 17 years later.
But you asked for foundation.
And there is still some angst.
Yes, there has to be angst. You asked for foundation, so let me give it to you, please. Okay? They brought the narrative to the public that we were not reliable and they were damn lying out of place. They did not say to the public, well, they had some hiccups, and so that's where the driver had to leave. They sold the narrative to the public that we were not reliable. This was based on the fact after they paid out the first payments. Pardon me. And they realized how much money they would have to pay.
Do you realize that they still continue to use taxi drivers today when there's
No, because I live in Mars.
Only a certain amount of buses.
Because I live in Mars and I don't know. You asked me to explain, but you keep cutting across me. You asked me to explain. I live in Mars. I don't know how to use buses. And that was the rules that we use. That was the rules because when you push back, they say, but we give work to the certain drivers. Certain drivers who bought bigger buses, they incorporated them, but the fact is you had the associations. You bypassed the associations negotiation and you brought your own buses and you gave some taxi drivers work to appease the public. But you have to look at the bigger picture. Okay? At the last meeting here with Dr. Douglas, and we challenged it because, your ex-husband was all part of this argument. They were not supposed to be given license to operate their own vehicle. That was wrong. To the point where Dr. Douglas admitted it. And he said the only reason why he gave permission was because he thought the vehicles that belonged to somebody else, because he knew whether it's legislated or not, they were not supposed to have their own vehicle, even going back to the promise of heights. And so Douglas says to us, in as much as they hear.
I listen.
In as much as they hear.
And Africa, and one of the things that you all talked about, okay, you would take the person to Leedsmas, then you all go and do some other rounds, whatever, maybe go to the beach for some visitors, and then have to get down to La Valley, but there may have been a derailment, and then the thing is, I guess at the end of the day, maybe one thing was said at the beginning, and all businesses, any business would have a plan at the start of a business, but then you see something doesn't work for you, you make a change in that plan. If you operate in a business, wouldn't you change your plan if it isn't working? If it isn't financially lucrative for you, or if there are too many bumps in the road, that you will take a different road? Isn't that normal business practice?
Here's what. What
Isn't
was
that
it?
normal business
I am
practice?
answering
What
you.
would you do? Were you
I
the
am
management
answering
of the
you.
scenic train at that time? What would have been your view? Which way would you have gone? So if you have a template at the start, it doesn't mean that you continue with that template if it's not working, because everybody wants to make the maximum amount of money in a particular day. So they are looking at their bottom line, I guess, at the time, and so they decided to go a different
And
route.
lie
And people
to the
have
public.
choices. Everybody has choices. If taxi drivers decide that they want to go and work for the scenic train and have a short pay instead of trying to bust their tails out there, then that is their choice at the end of the day.
You finished?
You know, I really do not see that at this point, 17 years later, that this is still an argument that you do know that the scenic train does a lot of their advertising. They pull in the people are attracted to the tour, and it employs a good amount of people as well. So, you know, why is the scenic train coming up here in this argument today?
You came on the program with all your...
The taxi drivers have been in business, like someone said on Facebook today, for hundreds of years. You all have been doing this business for hundreds of years now. You know, you all know the
Here's what. You came on the program with all your answers. You asked for the backstory, and I'm giving it, but you don't want to hear it because you represent the train. I am saying,
I'm not representing the train. I'm listening to
yes, but you're not listening to me.
I'm not representing the train.
You're not listening to me. You want to know why 17 years after this is happening.
Because I do know, while it is I tell you I don't know all of this, your side of the story. I know the history of the train. Yes, I know Dwyer was one of those persons instrumental in attracting the train here. I know a lot of what went on. I know they invested greatly. You understand? So everybody, you know, right now, 17 years later, while we are in this COVID era, what is the problem right now? Is what we need to get to.
You're not trying to get to it. You have your answer already.
Years ago to now, let us bring it forward.
You are not trying to get to anything. You have your answer already. You have your answers. You already made answers already. You're not listening. No, you're not. No.
We have to learn to
No.
As it affects us, but not blame other companies for what they do. I am in the craft. Are you hearing craft market people in the craft market who haven't made money for the past year? Are you hearing them bawling like you all?
I wish I had more time. I really wish I had more time to deal with this issue with you. Right? Anyway, here's the bottom line.
You all want to be angry? 4 people are allowed to go on Quadzante every time the damn ship comes in. You understand? Are you hearing craft people making noise? We want to make money too. I have a lot of pottery here for me to sell, but I'm also on the train, so I make the choice. It's a choice. We have to see what works for us at the end of the day. So you all have to try and battle out yourself and see what works for you all. You understand? I cannot be in 2 places, so I have diversified. I made sure I had multiple income streams so that I could go and make money to feed my
I'm going to have to cut you because I have to wrap up. I'm going to have to cut you. Because I have to wrap up. Right? Now, one of the things you just said is that we have to work out our problem. That's what we're doing. You have a narrative that fits what you want to believe. I am dealing with the reality of how it affects taxi drivers, how it started. It started wrongly. So whether it's 10 years after or 17 years after, the fact is we have been trying to address this for a long time. Even when Dr. Douglas was there, we went to him. It didn't just crop up overnight. We had the support of Dwight Astafan. Even though he brought them, they were wrong. Ricky Skerry said to us, well, the Scenic Railway invested and this and that and that. Long before Scenic came to town, we have 5 large ships downtown. So we ran behind them. We took the investment. St. Kitts Taxi also invested in the trade shows and Limiga on a much smaller scale. But the fact is, not because you make a large investment, the fact is, the bottom line is, you promised that you would not engage in the transportation So you change the business model because you realize how much money you were paying out. And the end result is taxi drivers, some of them complicit in what you were doing, got shafted. That is why Lindsey Grant could not understand why 3-4 large ships are downtown and taxi drivers not making any money. And that is why for the last 2 calls of the ship, you find about 3 taxi drivers independently got a job. I have to take this call after. And that's the situation. So when you're saying how 17 years after we still attack the train and all the negative, we have issues. We're saying the work must be shared, and this goes to Cantos also. We have also invested. So you work on the train and you have to have your stories different to ours. And we will get it changed. So if you say we have to work out our problem, we will. This is all part of the dialogue, because years ago, when Scenic gave the taxi drivers a black eye, they said nothing. I said you have to push back, and the public bought that nonsense about taxi drivers. You go to the bank, you invest over $100,000 in a vehicle, in a business, because we invest also. Are we not reliable? We're not reliable? So because the Scenic Railway invests and so on, they get the returns, but I'm saying they should not be making 3-4 trips down there every time a ship call, and you can get 3 taxi drivers getting a job. What nonsense are you talking? We have to change the narrative. We invested just like any other entity, but they were not supposed to come here and get their own vehicles. And we cornered Denzel Douglas on that. And when he said, well, I didn't realize that the vehicles I thought it belongs to DuPont and Buddy. He was lying his teeth in as much, he said, as they're here. And we can send back the buses. We'll have a sharing arrangement. 1 ship goes to Sinkers Taxi, 1 goes to Limega, 1 goes to Scenic, and that is what we're asking. The work must be shared. That's all. If Douglas recognized that, and recommended that sharing arrangement, that's all we're asking. That's all we're asking, because for the hundreds of drivers who go home daily without, who used to go home daily without, well, there wasn't hundreds then, but without a job, as it stands now, in a more controlled environment, 3 drivers per ship is not enough. The work has to be shared. I mentioned that the other 2 presidents and I sat with management of Scenic Railway about 2-3 months ago. With the same intention, Mr. Bass, we said to him, we want to work with you, but the work has to be shared. The whole Socrates of Andy, we'll get back to you on that. And we're waiting. The work has to be shared. End of story. Bottom line. I want to thank all the folks who called and make the contribution, those who listened, those who viewed, those who called, could not get in. This is a burning issue that has to be addressed. As Africa said, I was too quiet. Nah. You have to wait for some time until it really squeezes the taxi drivers for them to shout out and say, okay, we ready to go? Let's take it forward now. We want to thank you once again. And to WINNFM, thanks for giving us a platform. Until Monday, God's willing, I'm Socrates saying peace, love, and a much healthier tomorrow.